Hey everybody, welcome back to Dorm Squad Sports, sports podcast focused on Alabama athletics. I'm Dakota, actually back with Brian and Oakley. It's been like at least a month since we've all been together doing a podcast. I think a lot's kind of happened. I think there might have been a football game or two since the last time we were all here, but honestly, my brain's kind of suppressing all those memories. But either way, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to look into New Year in football. Of course, all the NFL draft declares and all of the coaching changes on Alabama's staff. We're going to get into all of it. And we're going to start with our too early top five for next year because obviously that's what everyone wants to talk about as soon as the season's over. What's looking forward. And Oakley, you can go ahead and start with yours. But, I mean, all of ours honestly are almost identical, but you can go ahead and go.
Oh, yeah, they are. And you can't really argue a whole lot, especially with the top four. Number one, you got to have Clemson. They won the national championship. They got their top quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, top running back, and Travis Etienne. Probably at least top two receivers in Justin Ross and T. Higgins coming back. Absolutely loaded on the offense side of the ball. Defense, they're going to take a little bit of a hit, losing Kendall Joseph, one of their top linebackers, and basically their whole front line, top five defensive linemen. So that'll be a tough hit, but Dabo got a good recruiting class. He'll get him back up there. So that's who got a number one. And number two, I have us. Just like Clemson's returning a lot of people, we're returning a lot too. And really Tua, and that's about all we need. But Najee's coming back. Brian Robinson, look for him to be a dark horse next year. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time this year, but I think he could really have a breakout season. All of our wide receivers, it's going to be really good. And then I got Georgia. Even though they fell short in the SEC championship game, they played really well, gave us a really tough game. I got them at number three with really all of these offenses are returning a lot, at least the top three. Jake Fromm coming back and DeAndre Swift. And we may get a little bit of a taste of Zamir White. He didn't get to play last year because he tore his ACL, and he was out for the whole season. But he was a five-star number one running back in the nation for the 2018 class. So look for him next year. Number four, I have Ohio State. A lot of quarterback change. Dwayne Haskins going to NFL. People thought Tate Martell might take that job. He's transferred to Miami, and Justin Fields is taking that spot. But they're like all these other teams. They're returning. What's the running back? J.K. Dobbins. He's a great running back for them, and some wide receivers. So it'll be interesting to see what Justin Fields can do there. And then I have Oklahoma at number five. And since the news came out today, it really surprised me to put them there because Jalen Hurts has announced that he will be transferring to the University of Oklahoma or Oklahoma University, and like they have a lot of weapons out there too, and I think they'll be really good.
Yeah. All right. I'll go and do mine because it's literally identical to yours. The one that I have most up in the air is Georgia. I put them number three strictly on talent. I don't really put a lot into how people play in bowl games when they were expected to make the playoff and then they don't. I mean, you can look at Alabama's history in the Sugar Bowl. Let me turn down my volume. Make sure that, like, I don't want to put a lot into that because they weren't really playing like we expected them to. But anyway, and then and they had a lot of people leave that were kind of question marks. A lot of people that they thought they were going to get back, but they haven't been able to. Riley Ridley's a good example there. They were really hoping to get him back, and he's declaring for the draft. So that's just how it goes. And literally exact same for Oakley. You know, Clemson, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma. I think that there's going to be a lot of teams that are overhyped coming into this year. Michigan will probably be because it's the Harbaugh team, and they just always think he's the best. LSU, they always have the talent, but they always come up a step short. So it'll be interesting to see how people rank them. Texas, just because they beat Georgia, I think they're going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff contender. Notre Dame, just because they were in the playoff. And Oregon, because they have their quarterback coming back mixed with a great freshman class. But I think it's going to take them some time to develop. If they do well, it's going to be because they're in the Pac-12. But, I mean, and another thing that they look for is, like, the matchups. So, like, Oregon plays Auburn in, I think, the first week. So Oregon's going to be really overhyped because that's a good storyline. Same, like, people were giving Louisville a little bit too much credit since they were playing us. They were one of the worst teams in the Power 5. And then another, like, Texas, LSU, Notre Dame, Georgia, since those games are early, those teams are going to be, like, set up in terms of, hyping them up. And I don't think they're going to really live up to the hype.
My top five's pretty much the same. I got Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia. right out of the top 3. But I have Oklahoma at 4, and here's the reason. I think them they do lose a lot on offense, but they bring back some running backs. But Rodney Anderson missed most of the season with an injury, so they bring back the guys who replaced him. And Jalen Hurts is going to help ease the blow there at quarterback from Kyler Murray. And the Oklahoma defense was really bad, but it has nowhere to go but up. I believe they returned around 10 starters, and I'm sure there were some more guys there in the mix that got to play too, who are going to be coming back. So it's got to be a given they're going to be a little better than they were last year because it can't be much worse. And once again, I'm really not 100% sold on Ohio State yet, just because we haven't seen Justin Fields play. He was highly recruited out of high school, but that doesn't mean he's going to be really good. I mean, it's probably going to be a step down from Haskins. It's going to be really hard to duplicate what Haskins just did. And then they probably lost. I won't say probably. They lost the best pass rusher in college football, which they played a lot of the season without him last year. But that still hurts. And I think I'm not saying I think Michigan's going to be really good, but Michigan does return Shea Patterson again this season, so it's always good when you have your quarterback coming back. But it's really hard to talk about the top 5 teams right now. We still have the second signing day. Hate to say it, but guys are going to get hurt, guys are going to transfer, so it'll all work itself out.
Yeah. Another thing with Ohio State is the fact that they have a new head coach, which everyone says that he's going to be, a step in the right direction. But sometimes when you're unproven, it at least takes a year or two to get your feet down. Let's go ahead and get right into the Jalen Hurts transfer stuff. I know there was a lot of talk about him going to Miami, but after Tate Martell went there, that was a sign that Jalen decided not to go there. Obviously, if they had their choice, they would have taken Jalen. Here's my thing about it. I'm going to support Jalen no matter what he does. Even if he went to Auburn, I think I'd support him. I was just kind of hoping he'd go to a team that didn't have a good chance to play us, honestly, because we don't write storylines, but that's got to be a storyline. If they make it through the regular season and find a way to make it back to the playoff against us, if you could just write out a script for how a football season should go, that would be how it goes,
Yeah, if I had to write a script, I would absolutely love it if we played them in the national championship game in New Orleans. That's just me though. Tua versus Jalen one more time. That's a good ending, I think.
Yeah.
If you take an unbiased, just take a step back and look at it, it's really an obvious decision for Jalen. Oklahoma's closest to his hometown. Lincoln Riley, in my mind, is the best offensive-minded coach in college football. Quarterbacks have a proven track record in the Big 12, and Jalen wants to go play quarterback in the NFL, and I don't think Maryland or Miami gives him a good opportunity to showcase his talents. He's going to have Oklahoma has some great recruits coming in on the offense, especially at a wide receiver, and Lincoln Riley, the same way Enos helped Jalen out a lot this year, Lincoln Riley's going to help Jalen out a lot, even more so probably, and I think it was a great move for Jalen, and I'll be cheering for him this year. I hope he does really good.
Yeah, and you got to think. Lincoln Riley took Baker Mayfield, who was a former walk-on transfer. A lot of people thought he might be a late round, even if he's drafted pick going into that year, number 1 overall pick, Cleveland Browns. Then you take Kyler Murray, who's supposed to be playing baseball right now, and shouldn't be even considering NFL because he's going to be the shortest quarterback in the history of all time. Heisman Trophy, first round draft pick lock if he decides to go there. And depending on how stupid Arizona gets, they might screw up and take him number 1. You don't know. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do the exact same thing with Jalen. I don't think Jalen's going to win a Heisman, but he might at the very least, he's going to help his draft stock, because I think at this point his stock was going to be somewhere in day 3 where you're going to take a flyer and you're going to take someone who's just going to be an athlete and see what you can do with them. But now people are really going to be actually looking at him for quarterback just because of Lincoln Riley's system. So, again, it's great for Jalen, and we'll see what he can do. I mean, you're not going to be able to find an Alabama fan who doesn't, who isn't happy for Jalen because of everything he's done. I personally think he deserves a statue at Alabama. Like, I mean, I've joked about it, but there's that statue at Bryant-Denny with the two players and the Alabama flag, and they're like pointing into the sunset or whatever. I have no idea who those players are. I don't know if they're real, if they're just like stock players, but I want a big old number 2 on one of them and a big 13 on the other. Just make them Jalen into it right now.
Just chisel some numbers in there.
Yeah, honestly, I would take like just a piece of like copy paper and just like put it in Sharpie and just like tape it there as many times as I had to before they like fix it, just so they like get an idea. But anyway, that's just me. All right, let's go ahead and get back into just a random question that I put in here because Dabo is the closest thing that there is to a Nick Saban right now, and a lot of people talk about how he feels like the coach in waiting for Alabama. But for some reason, it feels like half the fan base is, the never Dabo campaign because he's so anti-Nick Saban. Like, the way he does things is just so different. But would y'all accept Dabo, like, whenever Saban, eventually retires, because he's not going to live forever, not going to coach forever, would you take Dabo if that was the option?
In my personal opinion, I don't think it's whether Alabama will accept Dabo. I think it's whether Dabo would accept Alabama. Because, that's what everybody thinks because he played football here. He's going to be Alabama's next head coach, whenever Saban retires. But, like Kirk Herbstreit said after the game, people around him has said, and the people talking to him said, they don't feel like Dabo's going to leave Clemson to come to Alabama when Saban retires. It's just, if we're being honest, there's nowhere Dabo can go but down from Saban. You don't want to be the guy that follows the greatest of all time. You want to be the guy who follows the next guy after that because then you go up. And it's what Dabo's built at Clemson. He's already the greatest head coach of all time there, and it's not even close. He's going to have stuff renamed after him all over that place, university. But that's still a ways down the road. Dabo may decide he does want to come home. He is from Alabama, from Pelham, but right now I would love Dabo. He would definitely be my first choice for head coach. But right now, I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think Dabo would come to Alabama as of right now.
I would absolutely love to have Dabo. I understand why a lot of people are hesitant towards the idea because he's such a laid-back personality as opposed to the hard-nosed Saban, like cussing everybody out, shooting everybody out. Dabo's like, hey, man, we're just here to have fun. Win or lose, whatever, it's for my guys. And Saban has a little bit of that, like caring for his players, but it's not as he doesn't show it as much as Dabo does. And I like that about Dabo, and I think that may be one reason that he's been able to keep his staff for so long. Because Saban, if I was an assistant, I wouldn't want to coach under Saban just because you see how hard he is on the outside. Imagine how hard it is whenever the doors are closed and it's just you and him. So I feel like Dabo's a little more laid back, maybe a little more fun to be around. And in my personal opinion, I would love to have Dabo if he would come.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna be like, well, he's so different from Saban, but once Nick Saban retires, there's not going to be another Nick Saban. I mean, people thought it was gonna be Kirby Smart, and I mean, he still hasn't, done a whole lot. I mean, he's done a lot for Georgia, but he hasn't won titles or anything.
He's got the Jim Harbaugh on his back. He hasn't won a big game.
Exactly. Like he never has that stellar moment on the biggest stage. The biggest one's the Rose Bowl against Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. But you're gonna have to go in a separate direction. You're not gonna be like, okay, well, we're gonna just find the next Nick Saban and do this for another 2.5 decades or however long, because that's not how college football is. People are like, oh, if my next head coach has pizza parties to see when they make the playoff, like that might be how Dabo does it if he gets to Alabama, and that's going to be okay.
Obviously, it works. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, the guy has 2 national championships, has been to 3, and he's doing it in South Carolina at little old Clemson University. Like, I don't even know what they're known for because, I mean, right now it's football, but before that, what were they known for? They're not really high on academics. They're not a good basketball, or I assume they're not a good baseball school. I mean, they were just a middle of the pack, rinky-dink school, and he's completely changed that program. Picture that with the legacy of Alabama. if he can, say, look at what you're playing for, look at the people you're following, you're going to have this person's locker. Like, he has none of that right now. And if you add that to his recruiting and to just his coaching style, I don't see why Alabama fans would fight against it whatsoever.
I do think Dabo's pretty clearly the second best coach in college football right now, but I don't think he's getting close to Saban, and here's why. Right now, the ACC, it's terrible. I mean, Clemson could have started preparing for Alabama very early in the season, and they might have. You can't ever tell. And a lot of Dabo's teams, they like to play down to their competition. You look at their losses against teams like Pittsburgh. They should have lost North Carolina State a couple years ago if it wasn't for a missed field goal. They play everybody really close, and that's something that he can't bring that MO to a team like Alabama when they play LSU, Auburn, Mississippi State, A&M every year like that, because you'll get beat playing like that. But he has done a good job at Clemson, and maybe he is a really good head coach. Maybe it's just a perfect marriage between him and Clemson right there. But I know one of y'all mentioned something about the assistant coaches. I think there's a couple things that go with that. I think one is he's found a lot of guys who really don't care about. Well, I say a lot. He's found some guys who don't care anything about being a head coach, like Venables, and they're just fine with being assistants. And I think that's one really big thing that's helped them keep all the assistants together. And another thing is, I think that you're going to see guys coming after their assistants more now that they've won 2 of the last 3, in hopes of just catching lightning in a bottle and hoping that, hey, maybe this guy, maybe Dabo's rubbed off on this guy a little bit and he can build something like Dabo did.
Yeah, maybe so. But what I see it, the way I see it is, since there's never going to be another Nick Saban, he's just going to be your best bet. I would just throw all the money we have at this university, put it at his doorstep, and just hope he takes it, honestly.
Yeah, I still think it's probably between I think it's probably between 4 to 6 years probably before Saban hangs it up. So, you never know. I'm not expecting this to happen at all, but maybe Clemson, in 3 years they go 7-5 or something. I mean, I'm not saying that's very unlikely, but you can't ever tell what's going to happen. And there may be a new head coach that's doing really good. Not saying he'll be doing better than Dabo, but it's still a long ways away in my opinion.
Maybe Sean McVay will want to try out college football for us or something.
Yeah, I'll take Sean McVay.
I wonder if he'd be a good recruiter. I mean, who knows? But anyway, okay, let's go ahead and go into the coaching carousel, because obviously this happens every year. It happened really rough last year, and it's happening again this year. And Brian, I'm going to let you just take control of this segment, because you know more about who we lost and who we're trying to replace them with and what the situation is. But what's going on with the coaching carousel for Alabama right now?
Yeah, well, honestly, there's not a lot of people, not a whole lot of people are in the know, really. We have heard the rumor that Sarkisian has been hired in some capacity. I would expect that would be his offensive coordinator. It just broke that Tasha Poy accepted the Browns' defensive line coach job, so Alabama's going to be looking for another defensive coordinator. They lost their O-line coach to Georgia Tech, offensive coordinator to Maryland, co-offensive coordinator to Michigan, and quarterbacks coach to Miami. I think some of these guys are taking better jobs, and maybe 1 or 2 guys were told to find another job. And on the defensive side of the ball, we may not be done yet with new coaches, but we'll see. I'm not too worried about it. As long as Saban's got the title of head coach, I think we're going to be fine. But not a whole lot going on right now. But I guess the biggest thing that's been reported is Sarkisian expected to be on staff, and I would assume that would be for offensive coordinator. I can't imagine him turning down the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator job and taking a lesser role at Alabama.
Okay, so as soon as that broke and everyone expected him to be offensive coordinator, now it's a little bit more up in the air. But, I tweeted on the Dorm Squad page about, how he did it in Atlanta, and a lot of people, didn't like what I said, but let me just defend, my thought process. Everyone's going to be like, oh, well, we did so well in that one game against Clemson, that loss, and the offense left with the lead, and they didn't get the ball back. That's all you can ask for, and that is true. But there was a time where we had a big lead, and we just let our foot off the gas. They're in like that third and like in the fourth. We just thought that all we had to do is run out the clock, and you could tell in the way we called plays that we were trying to get out of that game as quick as possible. And I mean, it's a big moment, and it's a smaller thing, but I'm not sure that Sark is just a slam dunk hire at the offense coordinator job, personally. I mean, you can look at what he did in Atlanta. They had a pretty good offense, but you also had one of the most talented, skill position groups at Atlanta. And I mean, we'll have to just wait and see in how he calls the plays and what kind of system he wants to implement with Tua. But I don't think that's set in stone to be, a great pick yet.
Here's my opinion on this. Saban knows Sark inside and out. He worked for him, for a whole year. It's not like he just got hired on the spot for 1 week or 2 weeks to help coach the Clemson game. He worked there a whole year for him. I think it's rough to judge Sarkisian off that one game against Clemson, and there's a couple reasons why. One, I mean, you're asking a guy to become a play caller for a team he's never been an on-field coach for in the national championship. I mean, that's tough. I mean, play calling has a feel to it, and some aspects of it. You got to have a feel for the game, and, when that's your first time on the field with that, especially with that quarterback, Jalen Hurts was a freshman, and, let's be honest, he wasn't the best thrower of the football that season. And, a lot of people said the same thing about Dable, the very next year, he's not good. But, Tua comes in the second half, and, all of a sudden he looks like a genius with all the plays he's calling. So I don't think Sarkisian's like Lane Kiffin, but, him and Lane Kiffin, they have worked together and they share a lot of the same philosophies. I think we're going to get back to more of a West Coast offense. I think we're really going to, run, play action like we have, not, as pro style we've been in the past, but I think a little bit of that. But Sark's a really good recruiter. He had Tua, rumored is he had Tua silently committed to USC back when he was at USC. So I think we'll be fine on offense, especially with all the talent we're returning.
Yeah, it also said that I heard that he was a lot of the reason why Tua switched from USC to Alabama. At least his family, decided for him to come to Alabama. And as a quarterbacks coach, I think it makes a lot of sense. You gotta trust the process. I'm just a little skeptical about him, being the play caller. But everything's gonna happen with time. So let's go ahead and get into these NFL draft declares. All these are juniors. Probably our next episode, we're going to go through the entire group, including seniors like Damian Harris and Ross Pierce-Baker and all of them. But right now, we're just going to focus on the guys who decided and who we're getting back and not who we're losing. And I'll just go ahead and start us off. The biggest one, I think it would be an absolute shock if he had decided anything else, was Quinnen Williams, because he is absolutely, 100% first-round talent. Almost definitely going to be picked in the top 5. I think if he falls anywhere past 5, someone's going to trade up to get him. He's just that valuable. And depending on, I think the highest he'll go is number 2, just because I think Bosa's going to come off the board at 1 no matter what, unless, someone wants to draft a quarterback for Lord knows what reason. But I think the highest he can go will be number 2. A lot of people have him slated to go to Oakland. I think that they picked number 4, but this has been something Alabama's been talking about pretty much since about week 5. Everyone knew that we were going to lose Quinnen Williams, and as soon as he shot up the draft boards, everyone knew that this was a result. So congratulations to Quinnen, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so the next guy we have is Jonah Williams. Basically, from the first time he stepped on the field for Bama, we knew that he was going to be gone after 3 years. He stepped in as the tackle opposite of Cam Robinson, and it's to be argued that he's the best offensive lineman on the field for these past 3 years. Out of all the offensive linemen we've had, he's just been that consistent and that dominant. His fundamentals are so sound. Technique is perfect, and he'll probably go top 5, top 10 maybe.
I'm going to go back to what Cody said about Quinnen first. I think Quinnen probably had the single, just based off of one season for defensive lineman. I think that's probably the best defensive lineman or best season from a defensive lineman Saban's ever had. And I agree. I think Quinnen goes top 5. And what you said on Jonah, I think he's probably the best offensive lineman Saban's ever had.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's top 5, but I think he's probably somewhere between 7 to 15. The thing is, some guys in the league don't believe he's going to play tackle because of his size. But
I've heard literally every position on the line. Of course, he's played left and right tackle. Some people say based on his size he needs to play guard. I heard some guys say that he'd fit as a center, which if he's a center, obviously he's not going to go that high if you're drafting him to be a center. But I think the earliest he could go would be number 3 to the Jets. The Jets might actually trade out of that pick, but I think that's the first team with a clear need at offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more of a, who needs the help there as opposed to, like, helping the defense.
Yeah, there was a report from the Senior Bowl that from I don't know who wrote it. He said he spoke to at least a dozen scouts from different teams, and he said that none of them thought John Williams was a top 10 pick. But the thing about that is, you don't know what teams those are from. You don't know if those teams have top 10 selections. All it takes is one of those teams from in the 10 to 6 range, where I think he'll probably go from anywhere from 7 to 15. I think is his most likely landing spot. It takes one of those teams to take him. The next guy is Deontay Thompson. I thought he played really well early in the season. I thought his play faded off a little bit towards the end of the season. I still thought he was really good. A lot of people have different projections on him. I'm gonna say he could go late. I think he's a day 2 pick. That's me. But everybody has different opinions on that.
Yeah, a big thing with Thompson is a lot of people think he's one of the best safeties in the class, but a lot of stuff that I get is from Matt Miller on NFL or Sick to Football, his podcast. He said that people are thinking that Thompson might be too skinny, and like when you see him in pads on the field, he just looks pretty scrawny. Alabama's had some guys that have been smaller than him play safety and do well in the NFL. Eddie Jackson's first one come to mind, but I mean, that's just scouts. Like, I know for a fact scouts have been saying that. And every time that Matt Miller puts out a mock draft, Thompson goes somewhere in the late first round. I think that's his ceiling, though. And he's probably going to go second round if I had to guess. Alabama players have a way just to fall down the board for some reason. He could be one of those guys. Next guy we have, obviously, Irv. I think he's late first round, early second round. It all depends on where Fant goes because Irv is the second best tight end in the class, and I mean he just has to wait and see where Fant goes. If Fant falls a little bit, then I think the Patriots or the Packers might pick up Fant, and then Irv will slide into the second round. But those are the 2 teams I can think of that are in that range that really need a tight end this year.
I think Irv goes round 1. I really do. He's really good. I think he's definitely the best receiving tight end in this group. I think he's really underrated as the blocker. A lot of people thought Hell Henches was Alabama's best blocking tight end, but Irv Smith, and Hell Henches may have been, but Irv Smith wasn't far behind him in my opinion. And I really do think he's a late first round pick. I agree with you.
Next we got Mac Wilson. Mac was really teetering for a while on whether or not he was going to go to the draft, and some people think he could do well coming back and maybe get another year of trying to get all his fundamentals down because, man, he has so much potential to be one of Saban's best linebackers ever. But it just seems like he never quite got all the pieces in the right place at the right time. He had some great plays like pick 6 Clemson game last year, the interception in the LSU game this year, but like in the Georgia game, whiffed on a tackle. In the Clemson game this year, whiffed on a tackle, and you could just tell that he'd missed some assignments. So, but that being said, one of the best athletes on the field for us last year.
Yeah.
And he's definitely still going to go in the draft. It's just going to be interesting to see how far he may fall from the poor performances late.
Yeah, something that I know, another thing from Matt Miller, he said that he talked to Mac, and Mac said, I'm only going to declare if I know I'm going to be a first-round pick. He asked Matt, where do you have me slotted? Where do you think I should go? What do you think I should do? And, of course, Miller must have given him a good grade. He probably got a good advisory grade. But I wouldn't be surprised if he, doesn't do as well at the combine and slides into day 2. Also, he's the second-best linebacker in the group behind White from LSU. And there's a big gap between 1 and 2 this year. It's just going to all come down to who values that linebacker position to take it late first round, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think Mac probably could have helped himself out a little bit by coming back this year, but everybody has decisions they have to make. I may be totally wrong on this, but I don't think Mac's a first round pick. I don't really think he's a second round pick. It just depends. Teams, they may take a gamble on him. My bad. Sorry about that. They may take a gamble on him, but we'll just have to see. He's definitely one of the most athletic players Saban's had, so maybe a team sees him and thinks that if they put him by a stellar linebacker that he can play really well. And I thought he did play well last year when he wasn't having to make the calls on defense. But a lot of things went into that. The defense wasn't as good as it was. The defense wasn't as good as it usually was this year. This was Tosh's first year at defense coordinator, so maybe those things held him back some. But we'll just have to see.
Yeah, you and I have talked a lot about where Mac can go, but I don't see him falling in the third round. I know that he put a lot of thought into whether or not to declare, and most of it was where is he going to go. And I don't see how he makes that call. If there was anyone that told him he could, slide into third round or even day 3, I don't know. That's just something we've talked about a lot and we've disagreed. Next guy, Josh Jacobs. I think he's easily RB1 this year. He probably one of the most underrated backs that has come through Alabama. We're going to actually do top 5 most underrated players in a few weeks, not this week. And he's probably going to be my number 1. And the way I see it is it's just whoever says that they value running back first, and they're going to take this guy. He's going to fit in a lot of schemes. He's a good pass catcher out of the backfield, and that really means a lot to where the NFL is going, because that's a huge skill to have when you think about, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Kamara, McCaffrey, all the new wave of running backs. They all can do that. I think as an Alabama fan, I hope he makes it to the Chiefs. Of course, they've lost Kareem Hunt, and I think he could slide right in and do exactly what Kareem Hunt did there. And they're going to have a late first-round pick. I think it makes a lot of sense for him to go to Kansas City this year.
Yeah, I think he's running back 1 too. I think he's running back 1 as well. I believe there's a running back from Iowa State, David Montgomery. I think he's also rated high, but I'm with you. I think Jacobs goes in the first round this year. I think it's late first round, but I do think he goes in the first round. He's a guy that can play all 3 downs. He's really a total package.
The last underclassman we have going is Savion Smith. This one was kind of a little bit of a surprise considering towards the end of the year people started targeting Savion because after Trayvon Diggs got hurt, people started targeting Pat Surtain. Realized that was a mistake and tried to start targeting Savion again, and worked out a little better for him. Honestly, it might could have helped him come back another year. I don't know how far he's going to fall, but I expect probably a little bit later rounds.
Yeah, honestly, I could see him going day 3. I think he was running away from the program and not to the NFL draft. I haven't heard anyone talk about him at all, not even just as okay, let's do our first round mock draft and who are we missing. I haven't heard anyone talking about him as a draft prospect literally at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go undrafted at all. I think, but here's a serious thing though. I think he was going to be fighting really hard to get on the field next year if he came back.
Probably so.
And the thing is, which he could take that chance, come back, maybe get on the field. But then again, he might come back, and if everybody stays healthy, in my opinion, there's a good chance he doesn't get on the field. So he might be, he might be thinking in his mind, this is all the film they're going to have on me right here, so I might as well go now because there's a good chance I'm not going to be playing next year. But this definitely isn't one of those things where he's coming out because he's going to be a high draft pick. I'll just, say that.
Wasn't he a JUCO transfer?
Yes.
Started out at LSU.
See, that probably says something to it. I mean, he was in college, 3 years, I'm assuming. 3 different schools he was supposed to play for. I mean, it just probably says something about, I'm not trying to, talk bad about an Alabama player, but he's leaving the program now for a reason, and it's not to go be a first-round NFL draft pick, in my opinion. But, hope he makes it. Worst-case scenario, he'll be on Madden next year, and that'll be cool. All right, so now we got our top 5. Of course, we're kind of wrapping up on this past, college football season. I thought we should do our top 5 moments from this season, and I'll go ahead and start with mine. Number 5, this has been an amazing year for Saban. This has been a meme-worthy season for Nick Saban. It all started in the first game. Everyone was talking about who's going to start, and he wouldn't say who the starting quarterback was until he walked onto the field. He literally wouldn't say it 30 seconds beforehand. And then, he said, I'm not going to talk bad about Jalen. I'm not going to, so quit asking. That one time preparing for LSU, he elected a kick tail, so to speak. It's been a great year for Nick Saban. I've been 100% here for it. Number 4, that opening game against Louisville. Of course, Tua's first touchdown wasn't, a top 10 moment. And he just showed us what he could do as a starter. He kind of scared us a little bit with his injury concerns. But it was such a good game for him. And that's when you knew, Alabama had something special on offense, was when it started in that game. Number 3, and it's hard to put it at number 3 because it was such a big moment in Alabama's history, but what Jalen did in the SEC championship game, because he, it was just perfect storyline. He, loses his starting job, decides to stick it out, and we absolutely need him. If he wasn't on the team, we lose that game. It's as simple as that. And he was there for us when we needed him, sparked a comeback. Didn't win, but should have won SEC MVP on offense for the game. But that's a moment. No matter what Jalen Hurts does in his future, we're always going to have that, and that's how we're going to remember him. Number 2 was homecoming. It wasn't a huge game. It was, pretty sure, against Missouri. But that's when Dixieland Delight got freed, and I was there for the Iron Bowl where they got rid of it after that game, and to be there when it came back, that was just an awesome moment. And one of my favorites from the season. And then number 1 was, of course, the Iron Bowl. So many things happened in the Iron Bowl, but just being in the freshman student section of the Iron Bowl, not many people can say they've done that. And it was an absolute amazing experience from at least my point of view. And that I had to put number 1 for me.
Yeah, so starting off my top 5, my number 5 is that was actually my first Iron Bowl overall. And for it to be in the student section, that was really special. And it was just amazing. Number 4 is Dixieland Delight. That was really amazing. That was one of the loudest I've ever heard Bryant-Denny Stadium. Just giving the students a reason to cuss again, I guess. I don't know.
We need one.
Yeah, Alabama students. Yeah. Anyway, number 3, the Louisville opening game. I love that game because number 1, we didn't know who was going to start until they stepped onto the field. We had a pretty good idea it was going to be Tua. But that's when we really got to see Tua's arsenal unloaded. He was dropping dimes to everybody. I don't know. I think he had like 4 touchdowns, and it was just a beautiful day. We knew that Tua had so much talent and really gifted. Number 2, beating Oklahoma and Kyler Murray to go to the national championship game. A lot of the players, after Kyler Murray won the Heisman, tweeted the date of the Oklahoma game. I don't know, I guess as some kind of intimidation factor to Kyler Murray. And for the first part of the game, we delivered. Kind of let up a little bit. Still ended up winning the game. Got to go to another national championship game, so that was special. And my number 1 was Jalen in the SEC championship game. I put that at number 1 because that was the SEC championship game was the first time I was nervous all year about a game. And Jalen came through for us like he's come through other times. And I just have so much respect for Jalen. And I wish him the best at Oklahoma. But winning the SEC championship game, especially against Kirby, meant a lot.
Yeah, I took my top 5 mostly from plays from the season. Number 5, I thought the two really just the whole first drive of the Louisville game. I thought it just kind of reiterated what we saw last year in the 2 years ago national championship game against Georgia. This was for real, and we're back this year. He made the spin in the pocket and threw it up to Judy in end zone. 4th, I put Tua's Iron Bowl performance. I believe he totaled 5 touchdowns in that game. I honestly thought, I'm obviously not going to say his best game was against Louisiana Monroe or whoever, somebody like that. But I thought that was his best game this year, considering the defense on the side. Because Auburn, had a really good defensive line, and I thought that was his best game. third, I have what was many people considered to be Tua's Heisman moment or whatever, was his scramble against LSU for the touchdown. If you remember, he kind of got hurt towards the end of the play, but it was a great run considering, he was hurt and he still outran everybody on LSU's defense. Number two, Jacobs trucking the Oklahoma defender on about the 5-yard line, and he laid there for a while. And the funny thing was, I hope he's okay, but the funny thing was he was grabbing his hamstring after Jacobs trucked him. So yeah, that's funny. And then Jacobs flexing in the end zone. And number one's easy. Definitely Jalen running in for the go-ahead touchdown in the SEC Championship game. You couldn't write a movie script better than that. Happy for Jalen, happy for the whole team. It was a great season. I know they didn't reach their ultimate goal, but, you won the SEC Championship, you won the West, you won the Orange Bowl, you beat the Heisman Trophy winner. Congratulations to Clemson, but we still had a great season, and, nobody should think any otherwise.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Everyone hopes for to win every single game and to get every single trophy and win a Heisman and all the awards, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, there's only going to be one champion, but that doesn't mean there's only one team that had a good season. And we came up short. We laid an absolute egg in the championship game, but it was still a good year. And on to the next one. We're probably going to focus more on college basketball as the weeks go on, but we're also going to do a lot of draft coverage when, Senior Bowl's coming up, Combine's coming up. Whenever big things happen, we're going to try to cover it. But with all that being said, that's the new episode of the new year. And we have no more game days, but y'all have a happy week, and thank you for listening. And roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.